study interesting. So take out the big red book, the Eitz Chaim. If you don't have one in front of you, they're in enough pews that you can find one. Everyone needs a book. Everyone needs a book. Open it up to page 99. And I'll be there in about 2 minutes to page 99. But I want to start by asking a question. This is a raise your hand question. How many of you have a teacher, a mentor, a scout leader, someone in your life, an adult, it may have even been a coworker, who sees you, sees your uniqueness, sees your specialness, sees that part of you that others may overlook? How many of you have someone like that in your life? I would hope to see almost every hand up. Think about that person. Think about that person. By the way, my scout leader, Mrs. Machin, saw me in terms of every bit of my goodness. And even though I had no manual dexterity to make a Pinewood Derby racer, she said, "It looks very nice, Nat." How many of you have had a teacher, a mentor, a leader who didn't see you at all, who saw you in terms of your worst pieces and who made you feel terrible about yourself? Sad how many hands are up.
Page 20.
I think of my son who struggled a little bit, and of teachers who saw him and because of that helped him thrive, and of teachers who didn't see him, who saw him only in the box they put him in, and because of that caused pain. To see someone, to really see someone, to see someone in terms of their goodness, in terms of their essence, in terms of who they might become, to bring it out with love, that is the blessing of true sight. I want to teach you the Hebrew word for to see, ra'ah. Say it with me, ra'ah, resh aleph hey. The word ra'ah appears in this portion in all kinds of different tenses 25 times. Abraham's story is a story of what is seen and what is not seen. It's a story of humans at their best who see what need to be seen, what is often overlooked, and humans at our most human when we don't see what is right in front of us for all kinds of reasons. And as you think about what you see and don't see, that's the beginning, I'm going to suggest, not just of realizing your humanity, but it's the beginning of moral and spiritual growth. I take walks in Stolstaff Park. And here is my experience the last couple years. I'm walking and really trying to take in nature. Just really see it all. Sometimes I'm there and sometimes I'm not. But here's what has been a growing phenomena. People walking while looking at their cell phones. There's no seeing nature. There's no appreciating of that which is around because they're not looking. Listen to what Thoreau. By the way, do they still teach Thoreau in school? I know, I'm really, people should read Thoreau. Thoreau is a beautiful naturalist and essayist, and he spent a lot of time in nature, and he writes about nature in a beautiful way. Listen to what he wrote. This is in 1857. Many an object is not seen, though it falls within the range of our visual ray, because it does not come within the range of our intellectual ray. We're not looking for it. So in the largest sense, we find only the world we look for. And Thoreau encourages us to expand where we look and how we look so that we can look and marvel. This morning's portion is a story of what's seen and not seen. So now, page 99. This first episode is Abraham as one who sees. And it begins with that root, Vayera Elav Adonai. God appeared to him. He's a person who can see and perceive the divine. That's the root, Resh Aleph Hey. And in the middle of this visit, by the way, think about it, that's pretty monumental. A visit from God. He interrupts a divine moment because in the heat of this day, verse 2, Yisa einav, he lifts his eyes, Vayar, and he sees. V'hinei shlosha anashim, behold, 3 people nitzavim alav, who are in his presence. Vayar, he sees. Vayar ratz likratam, and he runs to greet them. By the way, this is one where the English editor would say, why did you repeat the word saw? He saw them standing near them, he saw and he ran. That's bad grammar. And here's what Torah commentators do with bad grammar. Bad grammar is an opening to a deepening understanding of who we are and who we are meant to be. The commentator Rashi says the first Vayar, the first time he saw them, he kind of sees them with his eyes. But the second time, the second Ra, he looks and he understood something about them that was not apparent from the first look. He saw that they weren't coming close. Perhaps they weren't sure if they were welcome or not. And the second Ra'ah, Abraham looking, he runs out to make them feel comfortable. That's that teacher who sees and knows how to get to that kid. That's that teacher whose heart says, I need to see the goodness in this kid. My job as a teacher is actually to never, ever, ever come with prejudgments. I don't want to know what last year's teacher thought. My job is to see the goodness in each of those kids and to do my best to bring it out. Abraham sees them. That kind of seeing calls on us to see nuance, cues, subtle gesture, that which is really being said, what real needs are. So think about the times when we've done that and not done that. Think about the times when we've welcomed someone into our class, into our group. Think about the opportunities to really see someone and to bring out their best parts. Thank God for the teachers that are here, because you do that. And God bless you for doing that. That is what we are called to do. I want you to think about little things. I want you to think about the kid who doesn't have a place to sit at Kiddush. I want you to think about the adult who might be coming with their plate, not knowing where to go. To see them is to invite them to join you. And for us to have a communal ethic of seeing, of welcoming. Did you see the people who said names for the healing prayer? Maybe ask them, who are you saying the prayer for? Can we be a community where we see people? Rabbi Shefa Gold comments, people are always standing at the door of our tent waiting for us to see them. The lesson is for us to see those people at our doors who we might overlook. By the way, seeing is dynamic. It's not just I see this, it's I act upon what I see. And I have to tell you that what I see right now is driving my activism, and I hope yours as well. To see so many people lining up around food banks because their benefits have been cut pains my eyes and my heart. And for us not to see 42 million people who do not know where enough food will come in for the next day, if we don't act, then we are not seeing. I wrote to the mayor of Redwood City, what can we do to really see people? And she says, well, there are a lot of things you can do. But here's what I want you to know. I want you to know that in Fair Oaks, a neighborhood about 3 miles away, and the surrounding Redwood City neighborhoods, 66% of the kids who go to school are dependent on the food they get at school in order to have proper meals. Are we seeing them? By the way, they may not be the people in the food bank lines. They may look just like us. They may dress just like us. Our job is to see what is often overlooked. And so many people are choosing to say, if it's not coming from the government, from SNAP benefits, we have to respond right now. Thank God that donations to Second Harvest Food Bank are up. Boy, do they need more to sustain what might be. Thank God for all of the high school and middle school and even younger kids who are standing at the grocery stores asking people to give a can, because these are young people who see there's a need and make a difference. Those are the Hannah Perlmans of the world. Thank God for the small business owners who are saying people with food insecurity are welcome here and we will help you out as you get on your feet. There are people amongst us who are choosing to see, and there are people amongst us who are choosing to avert their gaze. And it is by lifting our gaze that we say what is happening now is unconscionable and cannot continue. I studied with Hannah about Abraham's tent. They said that he kept the sides open so he could see who was coming by. He wanted to see people who are in need. That's your first ra'ah. That next story is such a famous story, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And there's an interesting reference to seeing in that story too. So go forward a page to page 102. And this is a story where Sodom and Gomorrah's great evil has come to God, and God is weighing whether to tell Abraham whether he is going to destroy the people or not. And he says, well, you know, I need to teach him about doing what is just and right. And so I think I need to tell him. So God says, verse 20, the outrage is so great, their sin is so great. And then verse 21 is the verse I want you to think about it. I want you to go down to see. There is our word again. In the Hebrew, erdana ve'er'eh. I'll go down and see whether they've acted according to the outcry that has reached me. You should all be raising your hands and saying, Rabbi, why does God need to go down and see? If God is God, shouldn't God know? God has previously told us, I know that they are evil. Why does God need to go down and see what is already obvious? And those commentators say, this isn't about God. This is about God teaching us that we have to see with our own eyes, that we have to be thorough and fair in judgment, that we have to see things firsthand rather than be defined by outcry that we're hearing or hearsay that we're reading. Here's what Rashi comments. He says, this teaches judges to look at evidence before imposing sentence. This is our world. In a world defined by algorithms that often bring us to that which supports our own biases. In a world where we are constantly confirming our own biases, our tendency is to interpret new evidence as confirmation of pre-existing beliefs or theories rather than looking with new eyes, with fresh eyes, with questions, with wanting to have certitude in terms of conclusions that we reach. Look for those in need. Look at what's really happening before you jump to conclusions. The art of seeing is an art that has many, many, many pieces to it. The next story is a is a story where the concept of seeing is played with and toggled with. By the way, there's more to this story, and I'm going to skip pieces of it, but I want you to call them to my attention later because I want to focus on the seeing and not seeing part. Here's the short version. The short version is that at Sarah's instigation, Abraham decides to expel Hagar and Ishmael, seemingly thinking that God has reassured him it'll be okay. He sends him off with what? A little bit of water and a little bit of food into the hot desert. And I can't but read this story and say, what? There's not enough food or water for them to survive. I read this story and I am perplexed and angry. And what happens in the story, we're pulled into the drama of the boy who is starving, who is dying because of thirst. Look what happens on page 115. Move forward, 115, verse 16. It's so poignant and it's so powerful and the lessons are so real. 115, verse number 16. Hagar says, she goes and sits away from him, a bow shot. She said, let me not look at the child as he dies. Al ereh bamot hayaled. I can't look. I can't see it. And then we read that sitting afar, she bursts into tears. Sometimes we just can't look. It's too terrible to see. Midrash teaches that her eyes were too full of tears to see what was in front of her. By the way, what was it in front of her? A pool of water. And as the text is playing with what is seen and not seen, we ask, how is it that she couldn't see the water that was right in front of her? The text is asking us to reflect upon that. There was water right in front of her. He opens her eyes and there it is. How did she miss it? And for me, one of the key lessons that I need to remember is that sometimes pain and despair and fear blind us. They blind us. How many times have we let go of hope or been tempted to? How many times when we have felt pained or unsupported, have we not seen the help that actually is right there? How many times has our own pain and suffering stopped us from recognizing help even when it is at our doorstep? And often it is. You know those kids who sometimes shut down and they just can't take the help that's offered? They've been blinded because of their pain. And can we respond to them with compassion? Because the next piece of the text is a master class on how to respond to someone in pain. It's brilliant. It could have just had Hagar opened her eyes and saw, but that's not what the text does. Look at what the text does. First off, God hears the cry of the boy. There's someone who's listening. And then an angel calls to Hagar, Malach Hagar, what troubles you? When you ask someone a question, you let them know that you care, you give them voice. How do we help that person who can't see? We draw them out. We let them lift up what's going on. Fear not, Hagar. We reassure them. For God has heeded the cry of the boy where he is. We reassure her. We reassure her. God sees this boy. By the way, doesn't need to say where he is. It's another verse, it's another clause of radical acceptance. Not where I need him to be, not where he should be, but where he is. It's accepting people where they're at and knowing that people can be accepted where they are at, that brings healing to the person who can't see. Come, lift the boy and hold him by the hand. She has to be a partner in healing. touch is that which heals. I will make him a great nation. Do you know what is the most powerful healing piece that opens eyes to what might be? Is somebody reassuring you what might be. At a time when we couldn't imagine Ethan having had a bar mitzvah, knowing that people believed in him and saw him, let that bar mitzvah be beautiful. At a time when we couldn't imagine him going off to an elite, wonderful college, he found his way because there were teachers and counselors who believed in him and saw him and partnered with us to help him realize his full potential. And now he's studying to be a healer in graduate school, because that's what happens when people see you. We can be that angel. We can help people who can't see open their eyes, because then she opens her eyes and sees the water. Vayar ber hamayim. She moves from not seeing to seeing, from being frozen to seeing that which is life-sustaining. So I've thrown a lot at you. I've asked you to see the person who is suffering. I've asked you to see justice and truth for your own self. I've asked you to see that which is in front of you, which you sometimes can't see, and to be someone who helps another see. Be the healer who opens others' eyes. Be the person who sees others. Celebrate the people who've seen you when you may have felt overlooked. By the way, there's so much that closes our eyes. My beloved mentor, Rabbi Sam Cheel, wrote a beautiful sermon about all the things in the world that blind us to what we need in order to see or help another. He says it's harsh judgment about that person. It's ingrained habits. It's unrealizable standards. And so we study this story and we say, what is it that makes me, like Hagar, unable to see? Should we go to the next story? It's a story where Ra'ah appears over and over and over. And the reason I ask, should we go, is because every time I read this story, it re-haunts me. I read it and I want to cry every year. Chapter 22, 117, God tests Abraham. Abraham, here I am. Take your son, your favorite son, Isaac, who you love. Go to the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a burnt offering. What? God, how could you ask such a thing? Abraham, how could you just say, let's go? And every year I study that story. Lots of different ways to interpret it. Those are other sermons. But I'll give you some possibilities. Might he have failed the test? Might he be testing God? You can read pieces in the story. He tells the guys, I'll come back. Maybe he's going to wait to see if God is the God who he is. Is this story just a parable to get us to the ending where he doesn't do it? You know, there's a lot of ways you can read this story. This is a story about Hineni, where presence to another person changes your understanding. Is this the story that teaches us about the danger of God intoxication? I so believe God wants me to do this that I'm off to do things that are objectively evil. There are a lot of ways to read this story, and I love hearing everybody's point of view about it. But I want to take you to the end. I want to take you to the end where our word Ra'ah appears. By the way, Ra'ah appears a bunch of other times in the story. Go to page number 120. He binds him to the altar, verse 11. He picks up the knife, and then the angel calls him, Abraham, Abraham. By the way, Abraham stops what he was doing, and he says, Hineni, here I am. Don't raise your hand against the boy or do anything. Now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your favorite one, from me. Then Abraham looks up. It's the exact same words as the story with the three strangers. He lifted his eyes. Vayar. The English doesn't capture it well. Yisa Avraham et einav. He lifts his eyes. Vayar v'hinei ayil. He sees, And behold, there's a ram. And its horns were stuck in the bushes. And he goes and he takes the ram and he offers the ram. In terms of the sermon on seeing, this is an episode. How could you not see a ram thrashing about in the thicket that's right next to you? Abraham doesn't see it. And I think that the text is calling our attention to his lack of ability to see what was right in front of him. Just like the Hagar story brings us to this. She didn't see what was right in front of her. So that then we ask, why? Why didn't she see it? Sometimes we get so caught up in what we think is what we need to do that we don't see that there are alternatives. I think that this is a story about we don't see because our mind can't imagine another possibility. He didn't see it. It was right there. And suddenly, as he begins to consider another possibility, no, I shouldn't be sacrificing my son. Absolutely not. He then sees that there's another way. So the ram in the thicket thrashing about becomes the metaphor for seeing what's right in front of us that we need to have seen all along. For me, it's a message that rings. And then, what does he name the place? By the way, note that God doesn't tell him to sacrifice the ram. He then, because he can see a different way, comes to his own conclusion that this is what I need to do. And he names the place Adonai Yireh. What does Adonai Yireh mean? God will see. And then he explains, on the mount of the Lord, there is vision. Vision comes when we start to see things in all kinds of ways. Vision comes as we break out of the box where we have always seen things and imagine other possibilities. For me, this is a story of saying faith is not taking your child. Faith is never traumatizing a child or thinking God would ask such a thing. Blessing comes when we see that which we have previously overlooked. My prayer for all of us is that we develop our sight, that we see what might be and expand our vision, like Abraham did, I believe. That we see people with all kinds of needs and we run toward him, keeping the tent sides open so we can see them. My prayer is that we see people who are overlooked and we respond to them with gentle love and presence. My prayer is that we ask ourselves, what are we not seeing? And we seek to look at the world with fresh eyes. My prayer is that we remember Thoreau's words, we only find the world we look for. May we look for worlds we could not have imagined. May we grow in our ability to see, and echoing the repetition of Ra'ah in the first line, may we see and see again. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So Hannah, that was a Hannah Perlman sermon. And the reason it was a Hannah Perlman sermon is that you are someone who sees people in need. And you don't just see them, but you respond to them. If I asked you, Hannah, are you going to give some of your bat mitzvah money to people who have hunger? You'd say, of course, Rabbi. Tell me 5 other places I should give to. You have a heart that sees and acts. You have a heart that sees people who are sometimes not seen, and you go to them in a gentle, quiet way. You have a heart that sees what tradition can mean, and you grow, and because of what you see, it takes you to new places. Your capacity to see is extraordinary and inspiring. You are extraordinary and inspiring. You've touched us. Don't just see how happy we are. See how moved we are. We wish you Mazal Tov. May this day sit with you and ring from generation to generation, and may your children see the video of this day together with you in years to come. Mazal tov. I'm going to go share this sermon with the gang next door. We've got different minions going on, and then we'll all celebrate together at Kiddush. And Hannah is going to help lead us in Musaf.